All right, I'd like to welcome in Mike Small, coach of the University of Illinois. Appreciate your time today, Mike.
Andy, it's always a pleasure to help you out and to be here and to spend time with you.
Thank you. So, you've been at U of I for quite a while. You want to talk about your journey from basically going from where you were at when you started all the way to basically a perennial powerhouse?
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll try to make this quick. It's been 22 years since I've been here, so
Whew, wow.
fast. I lost my PGA Tour card in 1998, and I was back on the Corn Ferry Tour as a past champion out there in '99 and the start of 2000. And the university had asked me to come back and where I had played, and come back and maybe try to build something special. And I've been thinking about it, and the time of my life was correct with my kids' age and everything to come back and play. So I decided to take the job and see what we could do. It meant a lot to me that I had played here, wanted to come back and build something. I had some aspirations, some goals, and the AD was on board with everything I wanted to do. He wanted to build something. And so when it came to facilities and scheduling and funding and my ability to still continue to play was a big part of, I think, our niche. We were trying to create something different because as well as I do, if you want to be good at something and compete, you got to have your own niche. You got to have something different. Get people to kind of grab a hold of the new concept. And so all that came to play and 22 years ago. And, we were last in the Big Ten my first year and the year before I got here. And then my second year, we jumped to second in the Big Ten and we were leading the national championship after one round. My second year after I brought in three freshmen, it's like, man, I kind of like this. I was hooked. Hooked. It's been a good ride ever since. We've been to a bunch of national finals. We've been to 7 top 5 finishes last 10 years and a bunch of Big Ten championships. So it's been fun, but it's been fun to play a part in these kids' lives. It's been fun to watch them grow as people and players. I mean, players is what we all think about being a coach, but obviously the connection and the personal connections and the relationships are pretty cool. And to see those guys grow, and I got guys who are in top positions in the corporate world or in golf or at the USGA or at agents on tour, and I got tour players. So as long as they're happy with their families and they're happy in life and they're chasing something they want to chase, then I'm happy, and that's kind of what it's turned out to be.
Yeah, and the guys that I've met, you really made an impression, obviously, in their lives. I mean, they still call you Coach Small. Anytime anytime they come around, that's pretty cool. Talking about the team atmosphere, so when you're recruiting, you're recruiting the best of the best, some of the best amateurs in the world at the time, right? And so, how do you take kind of those individual egos and make them into the teams being consistently great?
Well, we try to recruit the best amateurs and juniors in the world, but when I recruit people, I tell them that I'm not recruiting the players just because you're good right now. I'm trying to predict, looking at my crystal ball and see what you're going to be like 3 and 4 years from that point, because that's when they're at Illinois. And my job is to produce a good golf team, obviously to put people into the real world that represent Illinois and the rest of their life with respect and quality and integrity. That's a big deal. But they may not be the best players then. Some of them are. Some of them are on Junior Ryder Cup teams or first team AJG All-Americans I've had, which is important. But you also want to get the kids that want to be something special and be good while they're in college. It doesn't do you a lot of good to recruit kids maybe with they're over-engineered and they've been taught so much as juniors that they are swinging and playing with somebody else's golf game. And they've been taught everything they can almost be taught by the time they're 16 or 17 or 18. Their potential for growth may not be as great as if it's somebody who's just been taught some basic, good, solid fundamentals and help them put them in a position to where their platform and their foundation is strong enough to still continue to grow. So I kind of look at that. I look at everything. But more importantly, I look at the player. And you asked, how do you get those guys to get along with each other and buy into the right aspect of the program? And that's a big deal to us. I think our success over the years has been because, yes, we have good players, number one. They're good players. But I think they also compete and play with a different edge and a different commitment than maybe an ordinary in college golf. Not saying nobody else has this, but I think it's not very common where guys are playing for their buddies and their brothers just as much as they're playing for themselves. And that's the culture we try to create, that you're out there playing on the back nine of a golf tournament and it's pouring down rain and you're 3 over and you think your score is not going to count. It's easy to pack it in and try to be warm and dry and safe and just get me in here. I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
It's easier to do that than it is if you're out there and understanding you're playing for your 4 teammates that are somewhere else in the golf course, that you're going to keep grinding and fighting because you may help them and you owe it to them to compete hard. So I think that underlying foundational thought and feeling you have for your teammates is big, and we try to foster that a lot. And we always come from a perspective of optimism, positivity, yet accountability in our program. And if you can subscribe to those and understand what those really mean to your self development, but also the team, then I think you have a chance to really play above your potential and play above your talent level. And I think we've done that. I mean, we've had a couple individual national champions, which I don't think anybody else in the last 20 years has had more than two. And we've had two. I think that shows some success individually. But if you look at the success of our team, I think guys get a bigger kick out of playing for their brothers and their team, probably for the last time of their life. They like doing that before they turn professional.
Nice. You talked about it a little bit, but I just wanted to hop in a little bit deeper. As a question I was going to ask later, but ask it now. So as far as, I know you're recruiting some of the better or best players, but are there certain gaps or inconsistencies that you see with kids that are coming in that you wish that they would maybe focus on or work on a little bit more in high school?
Yeah. I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, that there are ways to play. There are not just hitting the golf ball and hitting it good is, I think, 20% of being a champion. I think ball striking, I think so much more of it's your emotions and course management and handling the situation, controlling your own space. Like I said, picking the right shot, just preparing, all that goes into it. But I see college kids when they come to college, please play for us. We spend a lot of time on the ability to stay in the present, not get so wrapped up in what they've just done or what they're going to do. I think you reach your potential if you're in the moment, which is a hard thing for kids to do.
Yeah.
That's mentally and emotionally tied. I think golf wise, little things like lag putting, and emphasis on certain parts of the game, ball flight control, hitting different clubs the same distance, and things like that, I think, add up over a course of a tournament where it's significant between winning and losing. Little things that the unglamorous things that kids don't know how to do very well. When you're out of position, get the ball back into position should be your number one goal. It shouldn't be to stay out of position. So there's a number of things like that. Those are just some examples. And what I touched on earlier, and I think PGA professionals, being one myself, a proud member of the PGA of America, I think that's a huge asset, something I'm very proud of. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes kids are maybe taught at an earlier age by people teaching them to look for instant gratification, and maybe teach them a technique with short game or teach them a technique with full swing that may result in a quicker jump to success at 13 or 14. Maybe a chipping technique, which gets the ball on the green and rolls out consistently, but it's not the best technique to evolve and grow a greater short game out of down the road. I think that's a fault, and I think a lot of it's the kids' fault too, because they want instant gratification. Younger people are always short-term oriented; they don't see the big picture. That I think sometimes they teach an easier technique or a more streamlined approach that you might give to a beginner golfer when they're 30 or 35 to have them enjoy the game more, which I understand totally. You want people to enjoy the game and have some success, immediate gratification, success back, so that they enjoy it and keep coming back and playing. But when you're a young child or a teenager and you're learning to play the game and you have a whole career left and you made the commitment to be a good tournament player and want to play in college, I think maybe you need to learn fundamentals and traits in the golf swing or in the game of golf that may not produce instant gratification, but will set you up and give you a platform and foundation that you can grow greater of 3-4 years down the road than being stalled out at that point in time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of the thing I'm so impressed by, like when I watch your game, is that you're just so consistent, and it's the unsexy stuff is the stuff that you're incredibly good at when we've played together. What type of things, you being literally one of the, best PGA playing professionals of all time, what types of things are you trying to convey as far as how you play to the players themselves?
I've always believed that you teach and learn and you practice the game from the hole backwards. I think that's important. Not from the tee forwards, but I will say the tee ball is something of importance. You can't, if you're a pitcher and you keep missing your first pitch ball, it's going to be a tough day. You got to get the ball plate. If you're playing competitive golf, the ball's got to be in play. So you got to get control of your driver. You got to understand that, being able to find it is more important than how far it goes. But at the same point in time, so you got to prepare for tournaments and prepare your game to give you the best chance to play within your personality. And I believe in not giving shots away around the greens. I think that's your insurance policy. And all my players know that how I explain that. Recruits know how I explain that your ability, from the hole backwards, if you can make 3-4 foot putts, you've established a big part of the game, a big part of confidence boost. If you own 3 and 4 foot putts in any situation, any kind of stress related or any kind of greens or conditions. So once you do that, then you can get out and can you give 8 to 10 to 12 foot putts a legitimate chance? Are you making the hole as big as possible? And then the lag putting, like I mentioned earlier, the 30 and 40 foot putts, the best players in the world do not three putt those. They do, but they don't do it very often.
Right.
They're very proficient in that. They don't give away shots back. And then you work your way off the green. There's not just one way to chip, which I touched on earlier about, I think, how kids learn. There's a technique they learn that just produces one standard chip. They may drag the handle, put spin on the ball, and they use one club from all over the place. Well, when you get off the greens, you got to be able to have different shots at different heights. You need to control the height, the spin, and the trajectory, or at his height, and speed of your chips just as much as you do a full swing. So I think you need to be able to be versatile around the greens. And once you've established some proficiency around the greens, no matter how you hit it certain days, you can still compete. Because your parents, I say that, the kind of the example, your parents would never buy a house without buying homeowners insurance. I'd say this to these kids, you don't have a car without auto insurance because you don't plan on getting in a wreck, but in case you do, you have a backstop. Well, you don't want to hit the ball bad when you play. You don't want to hit it everywhere. You don't want to miss 9 greens around. But when you do, you have to have some part of your game that is always going to be there, be your insurance policy, your backstop, that will keep you in the game that day and have you shoot 72 instead of 75. So the next day you can come out and shoot 67 or 8 and get back in the tournament. And it keeps you living to the next day. So I think when you prepare, understand how to play the game, and then when you go play, I just have talked to a kid today about that. And I said, you have to understand and believe me when I say this, that when you go, I just lost my train of thought. What was I doing there? But yeah, okay. When you play in a tournament, this is what it was. Kids, I think when they're younger, try to hit the ball good and maximize their ball striking potential before a tournament. I got to hit it good. I had to hit it good. I had to hit it good. And they go into the event with such a ball striking mentality. If you're preparing for an event 2 weeks out, I can understand hitting balls, but 2 and 3 and 4 days out, your mind and your focus and your importance and your point of emphasis should be in those shots around the green, the lag putting, the up and down, and which translates to a scoring mentality than a ball striking mentality. And so the scoring, the par 5 birdie conversion ratio, if you're up around the green, you're proficient. Coupled with hitting the ball in the fairway is your best chance to achieve that scoring mentality. Not hitting a big, beautiful, striking 6-iron simple every time, because in a round of golf, you're going to have a simple, normal 6-iron maybe twice a round. But you're going to have wedges. You're going to have, we work on wedge pits from 50, 60, 70, 90, 100 yards every day. That's our daily vitamin. That's our daily pill. That's your insurance policy. And especially leading up to a tournament, your mindset has to be dreaming and thinking and visualizing how to score around the greens more than hitting that perfect 6-iron or 5-iron. I think that's where kids young age get messed up, because when you get on that first tee, all heck breaks loose if you've been putting emphasis on ball striking and it's not there. Mm-hmm. If you put an emphasis on short game and chipping and pitching, your ball striking could still be there, but if it's not, you got to have that insurance policy.
So do you feel like your primary role is basically, from what I'm hearing, is your primary role just basically raising their golf IQ as much as possible?
We do that. Yes. I think the biggest thing at our program, and I think good programs say the same thing, is you got to learn at an earlier age. The earlier you learn and the earlier you believe in what I'm saying is the best, is that you have to know what good golf is and know what bad golf is. And you have to know the difference. Some days you could score good but realize it wasn't your best and you're on borrowed time. You need to make an adjustment. Even if you play good, golf's a game of adjustments. And when you're playing bad, you have to realize what was bad about it. And you know this because you're a very, very good player, that you're only as good as your bad days. And yeah, I don't judge how good I am based on my days I shoot 63. I gauge how good I am on days where I play poorly, like
70, yeah.
69 or 70.
Yeah.
And that's what these kids have to understand. And that's my biggest job, is to explain to them the scoring mentality. Score is everything in the game of golf. People talk about, well, let's not think about score. Sure, you stay in the moment, like I mentioned earlier, in the present tense, but in the back of your mind, score is what determines your future. So you have to understand what goes into, as a coach, teach these kids what goes into the preparation, practice, importance, what's going to translate to that last score as much as possible. And a mindset is huge. And we do teach them how to play the game, but also I believe as freshmen, we spend the first semester, because when a freshman comes into our program, I do not start overhauling the game right away and talking about the game. I sit back and watch and learn. Sure. Because I've done something good to become part of this program. Why would I change that right away? I'm not a possessive coach that says do it my way or the highway. That's not what I'm about. I want to learn how they think, how they process things, but then I also learn how they lead their life and how they handle things away from the golf course. Because if you're patient and you handle attention to detail at home and in class, and you're respectful and you're resilient and you're tough in the real world, you're going to be tough in golf too. You can't differentiate the two. So I think as a college coach, I'm more of a life coach. The first freshman year that I am anything else, and their golf tends to improve and quicker when they get on the same page with me in life as they do golf.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, once you lock in kind of that first semester being in college, it's like then everything after that seems normal. But that first 6 months is absolute chaos. Trying to organize your life and everything else.
Another country, or another culture. I mean, let alone going to school an hour from home is hard enough. You're away from home, but try doing that, 6 time zones or 10 time zones, and it's tough. And I think you do the same thing. You care about them, you be there for them, but they still have to do it. We got to lead them down the right path and kind of tweak them and divert them a little bit, but they have to have the ability to learn.
How do players get on your radar for recruiting purposes?
I think every coach probably does it the same way. The world now, when it comes to junior golf, is a much smaller place than it used to be because of the internet, and you can follow scores. I think from our success for a better part of 20 years, they search us out. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
We have to screen a lot more players than normal. The bad thing about coaching is telling people no, telling people that we don't have room, because you only need 2 or 3 players a year at most. And you're getting hundreds of things. And I feel bad about that, but you can't take them all. And that's just kind of what life is all about, but you got to work through that. The really good ones, the top ones, don't really reach out to anybody. You got to go find them, and they want to be catered to, and they want to be that. You got to go get infused into that, and you got to fight for people. You got to fight for your team, and you got to fight for their future. They don't know you're fighting for their future until you get to know them. And I think once they realize that you're a coach who cares about their future just as much as the future of Illinois. I mean, we're not rent a player where you come in and use your score for 4 years and get away. That's not what we're all about. And I think when they see that and they learn about that I'm fighting for their future just as much as our team's results, then I think it opens up a whole new world that they want to explore. And then you're in there, and then obviously you're competing against the other top schools in the country, and you can't get them all. And we've lost a lot more recruits than we've ever gotten. And that's just everything. I think everybody can say that. And it's you find the ones that are good, the ones that don't have their records. I mean, a lot of kids are really good that don't have records. And that's what we've kind of taken a lot of pride in finding too, is that we find the kids that fit with us emotionally and desire wise, that may not have records, but have potential. And the ones who, getting back to what I said earlier again, is that have been taught a certain way where there's a huge still room for improvement, room for growth, to where their momentum is moving big. And I think in golf at any level, the momentum of growth is a powerful thing. When that momentum stops, if a kid's not mature enough or has the right support staff at home or with his instructor, the momentum stops, it's hard to gain traction again. It really is. But the ones that have momentum, if you can grab them and keep that momentum going, that's how we've built, first team All-Americans. We've had 6 or 7 first team All-Americans, and a couple of those guys weren't really that highly recruited. I mean, Dylan Meyer comes to he went to number 2 amateur in the world when he played for us, because he just drank the Kool-Aid and trusted in us and wanted it bad enough and just jumped on board. But he had momentum.
Because, with your background too, playing, how do you, this is kind of a bonus question, but how do you continue that momentum even when they're gone?
You mean from here, from Illinois?
Yeah, from Illinois. I mean,
well,
a lot of your guys go on to try and play professionally.
That'd be a question.
Are successful.
That'd be a question for those guys. I mean, we have, Michael Figos is my most recent graduate. He finished 7th on PGA Tour U and got on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he's doing well. But see, people got to realize a professional golf career is like 30, 35 years long. It's not like, right. It can be. It's not like an NFL career that's 3 years or 5 years or whatever. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I think the biggest thing our guys would tell you is that the structure that we have them under here, and the motivation and the way that we help them grow, eventually they have to take ownership for it.
Yeah.
And when kids graduate, coming from a program where they've had improvement, I think for the first year or two they're out, they continue that because they're still in that mindset. But as well as I do, life is about who you surround yourself with and who you choose to hang out with, and the attitudes and the mindsets and just the atmosphere around you. When you're a professional, you're getting inundated and hit from a lot of different areas, a lot of different people. The nature of the sport is inherently negative. You're losing a lot more than you're winning. And a lot of these guys lose structure. They lose, like Thomas Peters one year flew me over to Dubai at the start of the season because he says, Coach, I got yes people all around me. He'd already won a couple times. Yeah. He's top 50 in the world. But he says, nobody's telling me what to do. And I need some structure, and nobody's telling me when I need to work out. I got to do it all myself, and I can't do it right now. So I flew over and spent a week with him, and it was great. And he ended up finishing, I think, 3rd behind Rory McIlroy and Martin Keimer. This is maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Wow. But he just needed that. And I watched his practice habits, and he'd go up on the putting green and he'd just putt, but he wouldn't putt with a purpose, and nobody would be there to help him do it. And he started talking to guys like we all do. We all do it because that's the nature of the sport. The ones that continue to grow and improve, like you're talking about, have a lot of self-discipline, or have people around them that can see what they're not doing, offer the advice, and then they respond. So I think Thomas is, he's still top 30 now. He's top 35 in the world. He's won 6 times in Europe. He's figured that out. At that time in his life, he needed me, but now he's got to figure it out where he's got a routine. The people around him are more giving more input, and there's more trust. And I think he's having success. So I think a lot of these kids, when they get out, have to figure out, how do I get my golf game, my time, my development to benefit me now, because I'm out of college. I'm not with 6 other guys to motivate me. I'm not with 6 other guys and a coach to push me. I have to do it myself. And, we can make a kid go out and practice in 40-degree weather and practice for 2 hours in some rain, but do they really want to do it themselves? Mm-hmm. And find out about how bad you want it.
Well, that's a great segue. I guess without giving away any kind of trade secrets, what are some of the things, like in a basic practice, that you guys are working on, or what are some of the practice goals that you set for the guys?
Well, in our program, a lot of programs don't have practices. They just treat it as an individual deal, and they all do their own thing. I don't believe in that. I believe we always get together and we always have a team practice for 2, 3, or 4 hours, whatever we're allowed in our number of hours we're allowed to practice. So we're all there together, but very rarely we do the same thing every day. It is a team sport in college, but it's an individual sport they're playing. So why would I have a kid who's having trouble driving it, another kid who's having trouble putting it? Why would I have them all hit ball flight shots? So I have to teach them how to correctly evaluate their game, which goes back to what I do and try to teach them what is good golf and what is bad golf. They have to understand what good golf is and how to evaluate their game. Then a lot of times we'll break up, we'll do individual stuff, and I'll roam and spend a few minutes with each kid. If a kid's doing fine, I won't spend time with them. I mean, I'm not going to mess up something that's going good. And other times I'll spend more time with some other people. Some days we'll do that. Some days we'll do qualifying. Some days we'll do lots of drills, mandatory drills, that when on the days that I have them do certain drills, there are days that I do the drills that they normally don't do themselves. Because these kids don't, a lot of kids are young. They don't think about it. And so I will make them do ball flight drills or do practice buried bunker shots or 40-yard bunker shots or something they wouldn't think about doing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of reminds them, okay, coach is telling me in a roundabout way, I got to do this more. Other times we'll do competitions, which is a big deal. We're very competitive. I think every day we always do some kind of competition, whether it's individually between themselves and what they're doing. I mean, individually, or I'll get groups together and play a Ryder Cup or some one-on-one stuff. But if you're a competitive person in our program, you love it here, you like it here, and you like to be challenged every day. And sometimes you're embarrassed, and sometimes you're going home thinking, man, that was a bad day. And other days you're going home and feeling a sense of accomplishment that you kicked some people's butts for 3 hours. So I guess I learned a long time ago, 19 and 20-year-old men get bored very easily. And we're always, we all have ADD, most of us. So if they know what's coming next and they know, same practice every day from coach, I don't think they come with the enthusiasm that if they come every day thinking, I don't know what's going to happen next. We could have a spot qualifier today. Coach could have us doing driving, some drills. He could we could be on the putting green, competing for laps or competing for certain punishments or workout things or rewards or whatever. I think that's a healthy way to do a men's program, is keep them on their toes, and I think they appreciate that.
Mike, I can't thank you enough. This is valuable stuff, and really appreciate it, and good luck the rest of the way.
Andy, you're welcome, and call anytime. And again, I kind of got going there, but there's a lot of stuff we still.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome, man. That's why I kind of wanted to just throw bird seed in there and let you peck at it. So it was great.
Well, I mean, again, we're just here. You do what you do to help people enjoy the game, number one, but also if they want to be competitive and play well, get their scores down. And I want them to come in here and enjoy their game, enjoy college, enjoy school, enjoy the time in their life. But if they want to win, they're in the right place. And so whatever we do, we try to inspire and motivate their desire to compete and see how good they can be. And if they're really curious how good they can be and they're willing to take a step back to go too forward, they're in the right place. A lot of kids don't want to take a step back. They don't want to run the risk of not being good for 3 weeks because they want to play right now. I understand that, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. And you have to be vulnerable and let yourself be good when you're uncomfortable and learn to play good and improve. And that's kind of what we try to do.
That's awesome advice. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right.
Yes.